During this video, we will explore a strategy that I call pocket subtraction. In all of these subtraction questions, the first number in the question will always have a 0 at the end. Take a moment to consider these two subtraction questions. 40 subtract 17 and 39 subtract 17. Which of these two questions is easier for you to solve in your head? For me, it's much easier to solve 39 subtract 17 in my head. When I'm looking at 39 subtract 17, I can say 3 tens subtract 1 10 is 2 tens. 9 subtract 7 is 2 for an answer of 22. But when I look at 40 subtract 17, there's a lot more work that I have to do before I can figure out the answer to that. So we figured out the answer to the question 39 subtract 17 was 22. We're going to focus on how can we use that to make solving the question 40 subtract 17 easier to do in our heads. But before we do that, take a moment to compare the two questions. What's the same, what's similar, and what's different about the two questions. Did you say that they both subtract 17? Absolutely. Did you say that one of them starts with 39 and the other one starts with 40? Absolutely. So knowing what we know about these two questions, do you think the answer to 40 subtract 17 will be larger than, the same as, or smaller than 22? And why do you think that? Did you say larger than? Why would it be larger than 22? Well, if we are starting with 39 objects and we are subtracting 17 of them, or we're starting with 40 objects and subtracting 17 from them, when you're starting with 40 objects, you're starting with more objects. So if you're still subtracting 17, you're going to have more left behind. So the answer is more. How much more? Well, 39 is one less than 40. 40 is one more than 39. So to me, that means my answer is going to be one more than what I started with. So my answer to 40 subtract 17 will be 23. But of course, I'll go back and check that to make sure I did that right. 23 plus 17 is 40. So we're going to take what we just explored there and see if we can apply it to make this question easier to solve. So we are going to leave subtract 24 the same. We're not going to play with that number. We're only going to play with the first number. 60 is not very easy to work with. So let's change 60 into a number that's easy to work with. Well, I could remove 1 from the 60 and turn it into 59. I'm going to put that 1 that I removed in my pocket because I don't want to forget about it for later. Well, what is 59 subtract 24? 5 tens minus 2 tens is 3 tens. 9 minus 4 is 5. So now I figured out the answer to 59 minus 24. But how is my answer to the original question related to that? Well, I've still got that 1 in my pocket, so I have to bring that back out to figure out the answer to 60 subtract 24. I know my answer is going to be 1 more, so it is 36. But I'll go ahead and check that to make sure I figured that out right. 36 plus 20 is 56, plus 4 is 60. So go ahead and figure this one out. Pause the video while you do that, keeping in mind we are going to leave that subtract 47 the same. What are you going to change your 90 into in order to make it easier to work with? How much is going into your pocket? What's the answer to my new question? And what's the answer to my original question? Go ahead and pause the video. Did you change the 90 into 89 by putting 1 in your pocket? When you solved 89, subtract 47, did you end up with 42? And when you took that 1 back out of your pocket, did you end up with 43? Did you remember to check your work? Is 43 plus 47 really 90? Now here's a puzzler for you. We are still going to leave this as subtract 23. Take a moment to think, what can I change 260 into in order to make the question easier to solve in my head? Puzzler is a little bit more challenging. A puzzler is going to make you think. And you know what? Because it's a little bit more challenging and because it's going to make you think, only give yourself about 2 minutes before you come back to take a look. Did you change 260 into 259 by subtracting 1 and putting it in your pocket? That was a great idea. Go ahead and finish solving it if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. Did you end up with 237 as the answer to the original question? Excellent. Did you remember to check your work and figure out 237 plus 23? Does that really equal 260? Even better. See if you can figure out what you should change 400 into in order to make it easier to work with. Go ahead and solve the question and check back in. I changed 400 into 399 by putting 1 in my pocket. 399 subtract 36 is 363. Taking that 1 back out of my pocket means that the original question has an answer of 364. 364 plus 36 is 400. Here's another one for you to try. You'll notice for this one, I didn't write the number 1 in my pocket. The pocket is just there to help you remember to deal with that change of the question that you made. My arrows showing subtract 1 and add 1 also do the same thing. Here's another one for you to try. Did you change it into 699? Did you end up with an original answer of 116? Now here's another puzzler. Remember, puzzler is a bit more challenging and it's going to make you think. So give yourself about 2 minutes to try this on your own. Did you change 601 into 600 by subtracting 1? That wasn't very helpful. Did you realize that you could actually subtract an extra 1 from there to turn it into 599? Well, that's much easier to figure out. 356. But here's the tricky part. I have to make sure that I'm not just adding 1 back in for 357. I actually subtracted 2 in order to make it a number that was easier to work with. So I have to make sure to add 2 back in when I'm done. Some of you may have realized that you could subtract 2 right off the bat for 599. And then realize that you have to add back 2 more to get the final answer of 358. So you may be asking yourself, why would I want to do all of that extra writing in order to figure this out? Keep in mind that this is one strategy that you can use when you're doing it in your head in order to solve tricky questions like this. But even on paper, you don't actually need to rewrite the whole thing. If I wanted to, I could just cross out the 601 and put 599 up there, but I'll keep track of that -2 somewhere so that I don't forget that I did that and that I have to undo that. So then I can just figure out the answer here. And then I have to add that 2 back in for my final answer. So that's another way that you can make it a little bit more compact. The thing to remember is that this is just one strategy that you can use in order to make the math in your head a little bit easier to work with. You'll figure out when it makes the most sense to use this strategy over a different strategy that you also know in order to do subtraction questions. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and we will see you in future videos.